Welcome to Spin the Wheel Showdown, where every video I sit down with a guest and we're going to spin that leader wheel. And depending on what the wheel gets, we're going to be playing a game with two different random leaders, some of the leaders we have not played, and going to see who is the better leader. Now let's spin that wheel and see what we get. What's up, everybody? The wheel has spoken, and today is the finale of Spin the Wheel Season 1. We're going to be playing some Shanks versus Gecko Moria. Yeah, we rolled Shanks again. Honestly, pretty darn fun deck. Definitely kind of up my alley for playstyle. Love the control-ness of the early game into the slamming of big bodies in the late game. But we're going to see who here can play more big bodies. Now, Gecko Moria, definitely the kind of deck that's going to go wide pretty quickly, which is where Shanks' leader ability is going to come pretty in handy. A lot of Gecko Moria's threats are going to be 5Ks, so without a little bit of Dawn attached, I will be able to invalidate those attacks. We were forced to go first. We're going to just start with an AK swing. Opponent's going to take that one and then pass to my opponent. Gecko Moria definitely likes going first, just to be able to get leader swing and ability off on the 3 Dawn turn. But because they are running the Navy package, they do have a lot of those cards that fit in the 2, 4, 6, 8 curve, right? Especially with Gecko Moria, the character itself. And taking Shanks off of 2 Dawn, off of the even curve, is pretty good against Shanks. Shanks really likes being on that second curve, so we can get Rayleighs into 10-drop Shanks kind of in order there. Opponent's going to go ahead and just swing 6, going to play out a Perona. Good old Perona, or swing 7, going to play out a Perona. Perona's going to make me trash a card from hand, and then we're going to use leader ability plus a 2K to get out of that. Perona going to be pretty annoying this game if another one just keeps coming out, because eventually I will just have to start kind of dealing with the board a little bit, or else I'm just going to get just ran over here. But we're going to go ahead and swing 5K into lead here. Opponent's just going to give me a hog back now. Unfortunately, the not fun part about swinging 5Ks into Gecko Moria is so many of their reanimatable characters are all 1K counters. So it's really better to just swing 6Ks, but I wanted to just get the Marco out there. Marco, cleaning up the Inupe. Inupe does have an on-K AO effect, draw 2, trash 2, which is going to allow Gecko Moria to thin out their hand a little bit more. Not really the thing I wanted to do, but it does take, again, pressure off the board here, though it does allow Gecko Moria to fill up their yard quite a bit as they're going into their 6 Dawn turn here. I'm glad I've got something to play on this turn here. I do have a Rayleigh in hand, both an 8 cost and a 5 cost, but 5 cost Rayleigh needs a few additional characters on board with 5K or more power before I can start getting the true effects of Rayleigh, drawing 2 and trashing 1, kind of helping me recoup some hand size after Perona that last turn effectively ripped 2 cards out of my hand. Though still at 5 life, pretty happy to see that as we're going to be going into our 7 Dawn turn on the next turn. Would love to see a Beckman at this point. Beckman, a pretty solid pickup for a 7 Dawn play when you're forced to go first, but unfortunately just do not have that just yet. Gecko Moria got an Ice Age in hand to Suru as well as a Kuzan. A whole lot of ways to minus cost here, but looks like 2 Gecko Morias in hand as well. I think that's what those are. It's going to go ahead and Ice Age my good old Marco down to 0 cost. And then looks like he probably has an Absalom in the yard to bring back. Yep, he's going to go ahead and go 8K. Going to tap 2, discarding the Kuzan. And then probably going to grab an Absalom from the yard. Gecko Moria's premier way of KOing things 2 cost or less. Now, in an instance where I did have an event in hand, I could have brought that back, but no, we did not have an event in hand. We ended up taking the hit and pulling another Marco, and then using the Marco to counter a 5K swing, which we could have just used leader ability for. Again, a little bit of naivety with this leader. Yes, you can just neutralize a 5K swing. Again, something that I'm not used to, but I definitely need to sharpen up the plays here. Very unnecessary to give him a 1K there, but we're going to go ahead and swing 7K. They're going to go ahead and take it. We're going to play out good old Rayleigh. Rayleigh gets value this time. We're going to draw 2, trash 1 as he's got 2 5K power or more on the field. End up picking up a 2K and a 1K ace. That ace could come out to play at some point, but once we start to get to that higher curve, it is going to end up just being Rayleighs and Shanks, which are kind of the harder threats for Gecko Moria to deal with. Gecko Moria without Ice Age has a lot of trouble with KOing big cards, and I think that's part of the reason why Gecko Moria isn't as popular in the current meta. Going up to the 8 Dawn turn, this could just be a Gecko Moria play. It does have 2 in the hand, so plethora of options in the yard. Does have a Hina on top. Hina, pretty solid tech for the Gecko Moria deck. Just having that activated ability of taking a card from your trash and putting it on the bottom of your deck, and then attaching a Rested Dawn to your leader does allow you to immediately pay half the cost of Gecko Moria's leader effect, right? Gecko Moria just needs 1 Dawn attached. So think of it as kind of like a Boa Hancock for the Gecko Moria deck. Unfortunately, Gecko doesn't get a lot of love. There is no Thriller Bark Pirates that attach Dawn. But maybe one day it'll get the Doflamingo treatment and get some stupidly busted cards that people complain about. I gotta go ahead and see a Pudding come out off the Gecko Moria. Pudding, if I've got five or more cards in hand, I do have to trash 1 card from hand, just continuing to hate out my hand and limit my resources here. And that Hina is going to be pretty great. Just going to let my opponent swing 6Ks here. We're going to go ahead and swing 5, and we're going to remember to use leader effect this time. There's going to be another 5 coming in the form of Perona. We're going to block that with the 6K, and then likely what we're going to see here is Hina's ability to attach a Dawn to the leader here and swing a 6K into life here. I'm just going to use a 2K to get out of that. And we're going to stay at a pretty healthy 4 life here, but opponent's board is getting a little scary, but we're coming up to our golden turns where we can slam down some big characters here. We've got a Rayleigh in hand, at least 2 Rayleighs in hand. Technically 3. There's a blocker as well. So 2 8-cost Rayleighs and a 5-cost blocker. That 8-cost Rayleigh is definitely going to be the play this turn. I do have a Otama as well. Otama is minus 2K power on play, so I could potentially kill something. I could like minus 5 and kill something that costs 8 with 8K power or less. Unfortunately, Gecko Moria is a 9K power body. Who knows what R&D was thinking back when they designed Gecko Moria to allow it to bring back, at least 6 Dawn worth of cards for 8 Dawn, as well as being a 9K body. It's just a little overstated for sure. But anyways, we're going to use abilities. We're going to set the Perona down to a 3K and then KO the Hina by using the minus 3, and then a 3K KO with Rayleigh. Going to be able to clear 2 cards on the board, which is pretty nice, as my opponent's board was just getting a little bit wide here and my hand is just getting a little bit small, and I really don't want to go down too far in life, as that Gecko Moria is likely going to get free swings in at me, as I'm not going to probably be countering out of a 9K swing at this current part, especially with only 3 cards in hand. Going back to Gecko Moria's turn, does have another Gecko Moria, which would honestly be kind of annoying, as it could just honestly bring back a few of those threats that I just dealt with here, which would be pretty annoying. Another really cool tech about having Hina in the deck is you can Gecko Moria into Hina, and then you'd have enough Dawn left, right? You'd have 2 Dawn, and then the Hina's ability to allow you to actually swing and use Gecko Moria's leader ability. I know a lot of the last few sets playing Gecko Moria, you can't usually play 8-cost Moria and do leader ability, but Hina does allow that to happen, which is pretty neat, honestly. But other than that, hand's got a little bit of counter in it. It looks like 2 2Ks and a 1K, but it is clunking up a little bit as well. Gecko Moria also having that problem of just having a lot of bricks, right? And some of the best cards you want to put into play off the trash do typically not have counter. Because they're you want some overstated bodies with some busted effects, and luckily R&D works a little bit harder on balancing those than they do maybe with 8 drops. But anyways, we're gonna go see a 5K swing and go into lead. Just gonna use Shanks' ability to neutralize that immediately, as I just don't want to take any extra hits, and with only 3 cards in hand, don't really want to give up any cards for the measly 5K swing here. We're gonna see maybe another 5K going to lead here. Opponent's thinking here. It does have a Hina. Hina could reduce my one of my Rayleighs, either my 5-cost to a 1-cost or my 8-cost to a 3-cost. Could combine a few things, as well as an Absalom. I don't know if he has another one in yard, but if he does, he could do some kind of combo play to clear some things here. But if he does swing with leader, that means that Absalom's likely not coming out here. We'll see what he goes for. Does also have the baby Gecko Moria, the new one from OP09. Puts a 2-cost Thriller Bark Pirates into play rested, which is pretty neat. If you play it off of the big Gecko Moria, that you can put in quite like 8 Dawn worth of characters, which is pretty cool. It does have things like a Nupe and that Pudding, just to kind of get some effects in. Yeah, we're gonna see the 4-cost Gecko Moria come down. Gonna put probably an Nupe into play here. Nupe just being incredible value for the deck, right? Draw 2, trash 2. In a deck or a hand where you're just bricking up like crazy, just get those bricks out of there. Throws away the Hina, and throws away the brand new. Still got 6 Dawn to work with here. At least 2 attackers could attach some Dawn to Pudding, but Pudding is, I think, a 0K power, so gonna have to attach quite a few Dawn to that card. But I'm gonna go ahead and play out Hina here. looks like he does, actually this allows him to replace the Absalom, but I think he's got one more. So he's going to -3 here, and then he does have an Absalom in hand. Was able to find one off of the Nupe here, so it doesn't have to KO that Absalom to put one into play. So we're going to go ahead and go 6 into lead. We're going to use Absalom's leader effect, pay 2, trash 2, play out an Absalom. Absalom's going to replace, and I think quick rules correction, I don't think that actually triggers the on KO Vex when cards replace other cards on the field. So funny enough, if you didn't know that, that's a ruling. I've been practicing for the judge exam, trying to become a potential judge for One Piece. But yeah, if you replace something on the board as per like board space, it does not activate leader the on KO effect. Opponent's gonna swing 6k, then a 9k. I'm gonna take both of those because my hand is getting pretty clunky here, and things are looking a little spooky. But notably, my opponent does not have a Rebecca on board, so I'm clear to land with some of my bigger threats here, and that's a Shanks. Shanks immediately requiring a lot of additional Dawn for my opponent to swing with anything, as most of the characters on his board are 5Ks right now. So this 10-cost Shanks could definitely put in some work here. Could also use the 10-cost Shanks to swing into the Gecko Moria, right? With a 4K power differential, would require at least 2 2Ks and a 1K to get out of, which would be most of, I think, of my opponent's hand at this point. I think he only has 3 cards in hand, and he has 2 2Ks and a non-counter. But yeah, we're gonna play out Shanks here. Shanks gonna just immediately come to the board and just reduce everything's power, and then good old leader Shanks is likely gonna swing 5 into 4 here. Opponent's gonna give me a 2K. We're gonna swing 8 into 4. Just going to try to clean up board to the best of our ability. And we're seeing 12 into 8. Opponent only has 2 cards in hand. Cannot counter out of that. And you're going to lose the Gecko Moria as well. Now, each of those cards on the board are going to require a few Dawn attached to them to even start poking lead. Which is where Shanks' leader ability is going to come in clutch right now. If you're enjoying this type of content, if you've enjoyed the Spin the Wheel series, this is like episode 11 or episode 12, one of them. It's the last episode of the season before we take a little hiatus, but definitely subscribe. We're going to be coming back with the season 2 eventually, and just always just trying to pump out gameplay in general. But yeah, join the crew, and definitely like the video as well. Lets me know what leaders people like to see, so if I potentially could revisit some of these leaders, so if you like watching Shanks, could revisit that for sure. But anyways, opponent's thinking now, as he's got a big old board again on the other side of the table here. That Shanks is doing an absolute work on him with only 3 cards in hand. Looks like he's got 2 2Ks again and a Gecko Moria. Look through the yard a little bit, because that Gecko Moria is likely going to be the only play that he makes this turn. Just kind of filling up board. Still hasn't, I don't think, seen any Rebecca's. Rebecca being an absolute staple in Gecko Moria, as it's one of the best blockers to get off of Gecko Moria's ability, but we'll see here what he ends up doing. Is touching 3 Dawn, touching at least 2 Dawn, so likely going to swing here. Going to go ahead and swing 6K because of the reduction on Shanks. And I think we could just give a 2K here. Do have an Atama in hand, or we could use leader effect in a 1K. We're going to use leader effect in a 1K. And then now this is going to be probably a Gecko Moria, which means that Absalom is not swinging, because he just does not have enough Dawn to work with that. And then I think that other Gecko Moria is a 6K, so down to 5K for the turn. Gonna go ahead and play Gecko Moria. Gecko Moria probably just gonna be pulling some more utilities here. Sees a brand new, and then a Kuzan potentially. Could go for the Kuzan as a way to potentially clear things later, right? That -4 is pretty important here. Could also grab the Hina, which is another great play. Yeah, Kuzan, definitely one of the best plays you could grab out of the yard at this point. Kuzan with the -4 could potentially make things very difficult for me, right? Reducing some of my cards down, allowing them to get within KO range. But it's going to play out a Nupe as well. Nupe is going to draw 2, trash 2. Try to clean up the hand a little bit here. Going to discard Absalom and a 2K. Has 2 2Ks in hand. And then that Kuzan should draw a card. Yep, which we'll do there. Grabbing up a Hina. Likely would have done it in slightly different order. Maybe would have drawn with Kuzan first and then cycled with a Nupe to make sure you're getting the perfect hand. But anyways, going back to my turn. Going to untap here. We've got 1 Shanks on board. We've got a Rayleigh in hand, which is going to make some of this combat math, some of this pretty nice. Also have a Dragon in hand, which is also a very aggressive threat. But I think right here we're just going to slam down the Rayleigh. Rayleigh's going to be able to clean some things up. likely going to clean up the Kuzan. So we're going to go ahead and, yeah, we're just going to minus them both. So a -2, -3. Cleaning up that. Gecko Moria is a 5k right now, right? So the -3 from Shanks, -1 from Shanks and the -3 from Rayleigh. That is crazy. Just a 5k Gecko Moria. You'd love to see it. We're going to swing, I think we might swing into Nupe here, but I think we might instead go lead. There's no reason for me to just keep swinging into Nupe and giving opponent value. Opponent picks up his first Rebecca. Going to see an 8k going to lead here. Opponent counter out with 2Ks. It'd be the only 2Ks in hand. And then he's kind of starving for counter here, but he's got 2 more, or at least 1 more swing coming at him for the turn. So we'll see here. Gonna go ahead and swing 12k. Opponent's gonna take that one and go down to 1 life. I've got a few cards in my hand. Gecko Moria is a 5k body, so not gonna be getting totally free swings in with me without some Dawn commitment at this point. But opponent did pick up a Rebecca. Rebecca being pretty solid. Is going to be a great way for them to potentially block some of these bigger swings here. But not looking too good for Gecko Moria at this point. Shanks definitely, we've gotten to the late game. Shanks is doing just some absolute work with the 12k body and just reducing things. Opponent has to attach a bunch of Dawn to Nupe just to swing 6k, I believe. And we're just going to take that one. I do have a 2k in hand, but we're just going to take that hit. I think that was is that another Automata hand? No, it was a Goldie Roger. A Roger to hand. So even if opponent, I guess, plays a Rebecca here. Now that I picked up the Goldie Roger, I might be kind of incentivized to go to 0 life, so even if he slams on the blocker, but he doesn't look like he's doing that. He's actually just going for a full-on play here, trying to just take me out. Another 6k into lead, and I have leader ability still, and it looks like, yeah, so we're going to count out that one, and then now my opponent has a 7k and then a 5k. Thinking about how he wants to split it on. Likely want to go 6, but he's going to start with a 5. I'm just going to reduce it. And then, yeah, I think I was like, oh, hey, Gecko Moria is a 5k. And he's like, oh, yeah, definitely should have swung 6k there. But just a little bit of a not realizing here. And then opponent's going to go 7k, and we're just going to take it because, again, we're not dead here. Opponent's out of swings. And the game is pretty much over at this point. I've got a lot of swings. Opponent does not have enough counter in hand. And we're just going to end this as quickly as we can with the dragon in hand as well. So more insult to injury. Could just play the other Shanks. Could play the Roger. Roger's also pretty fun. It doesn't really matter how we do it. We're going to swing 5k. Opponent's going to give me 5k. We're going to swing 8k. Opponent's going to take it. And then I want to play Roger for the flashiness, because how often do you get to play Goldie Roger? And we're going to swing Goldie Roger, going to clean up the game, and that does it. Shanks cleans up Gecko Moria. Gecko Moria able to get on the board fast, but not able to take care of my big threats. One of the Gecko Moria's biggest problems is just taking care of big threats repetitively. But anyways, if you enjoy this type of gameplay, definitely subscribe, and we'll see you